Hi, it's Jen Healy. I'm coming back with day 3 of this fearless challenge, this 30-day challenge that I'm calling Be Brave. And I recorded something over the weekend and it was super loud where I was. And I just thought, I'm going to come back and do this again and make it to the best of my abilities, the quality of it. And sometimes we're in environments that are loud or not conducive for recording. But instead of just writing down my story and sharing with you with some other medium, I really wanted to drop in and challenge myself to record something every day. And I'm doing this to share my story over the last 50 years of my journey, the 25th anniversary of my company Zen Healing and Healing Technologies that I launched. All of these landmarks are coming up this summer, and so that's been my inspiration to come online here and share for this 30-day challenge. And I'm really glad that I saw it because I was already taking inventory and looking for ways that I could share my story as I reflect. And I've gotten feedback from friends over the years that it takes a really long time for them to hear anything about my history or past and that kind of thing. And I do love to share, and I'm a total open book, so feel free to ask me anything. But at the same time, I'm really careful to understand the story that we tell ourselves really colors the experience and the meaning that we assign to it. And so I'm always really curious and watching, what story am I telling? Our memory is really only accurate to about 50%. We only remember about 5% of what actually happened. And then the way that we're even telling that amount that we remember is really based on whatever theme or whatever meaning we're assigning. So with that said, I'm going to tell you a story. So this is part of what I want to share about fun facts. So one fun fact is I've had 3 different near-death experiences that I would call near-death experiences now. At the time, I didn't have that language or any understanding of what was going on. But the first time that something like that happened, I was actually turning 18, and I got hit by a car, very unexpectedly, of course, and that kind of changed my entire trajectory. It meant that I wasn't going to be able to go to college. It meant that I basically had to stay in bed for a month, and it was going to take 6 months for me to walk again. All of these really big things. And I had the philosophy or story before that bad things should not happen to good people. And I was a good person. And why were these bad things happening to me in my life? And I didn't understand, and so I didn't want to be here anymore. It's the first time I've ever been like, I don't want to be on this planet. I don't want to be in a world where even if you're a good person, bad things will happen to you. It didn't make any sense. And I had grown up in more traumatic environments, more challenging environments. And so I had been working 3 jobs to put myself through school and to pay for college. I worked my butt off all through high school as well, supporting myself. I've been living on my own since I was 14. I'll get into that as well at some point. So when I got hit by a car, and it was one of those tragic experiences where I wasn't going to be able to fulfill my dreams, I basically, for those 30 days that I was in bed, I stopped eating, I stopped drinking water and taking care of myself, and I got so weak and frail. So by the end of the 30 days, I've never had a spiritual backbone before coming to the West Coast, by the way. I grew up in Philly. So I wound up in the lap of God. I kind of went into a dreamlike state. It was kind of like that pre-death moment. And I've never experienced like anything close to this before. So I'm laying in the lap of God, and God tells me that the only reason why I have been so challenged in my life is because I'm so blessed. And that, of course, did not make sense to my little 18-year-old brain. But what was told to me is that the way my gifts were going to develop is through these challenges that I was going to grow into the person that I've meant to be. So every challenge contained a gift. And apparently I was very gifted because I had many, many challenges in my life. And as I reflected on my life kind of in like a fast motion life replay, I did see how lucky I was and how many earth angels I had, and how these things that seemed so tragic actually led to other blessings, other opportunities and growth. And so God basically said, get back down there. You have more to do. And from that moment on, from the age 18, we'll just say, to 22, I was just on fire, unstoppable. I got 2 degrees in the hardest subjects I could find in 4 years. I was still working 3 jobs. I was just doing it all and on turbo speed. But that didn't necessarily translate to living a happy life and a happy, healthy life. And so I basically had another reset at 22, which I will talk to you about in another video. I'm going to keep these between 5 to 10 minutes so I can section them out on different topics. But I also think, not only reflecting back on those moments that were completely life-changing, how am I embracing different challenges that come up in my life now? And how can I see that there is a pony in there somewhere, there's a gift in there, and to allow the challenges to, when I embrace them, to reveal the blessing and to stick with them. And I just had a huge challenge the weekend before last when I was in Sedona, where I invited a new friend who wanted to come and visit, but I didn't know him very well. And it wasn't syncing up. It did not go well. And so I had to ask him to leave, which was so challenging for me. And needless to say, that didn't go well. And it was, it was really traumatic. And it took me quite a while to recover. I spent 4 or 5 days just walking around in this place of blame, shame, guilt, ownership, accountability, all the words, since I have been diving into the spiritual practices for so long. But I finally brought myself back to a place of peace and presence. And I could actually see that that trip to Sedona was really for me. I was really meant to be there with myself and for myself. And that's kind of how this unfolded. And also, even if it doesn't look like it in the moment, that there is a blessing and a gift in there for someone else who's being challenged. Because sometimes the biggest thing we can do to be brave is forgive someone and to hold them with compassion. If they're having a hard time or things aren't working out, just to really extend that level of compassion and forgiveness. Even if you don't say it to them, you can do it from a distance and from afar, but it is so freeing, not just for me, but for the other person, to not hold on to any hardship or animosity, but to see that the universe or source, spirit, is orchestrating things on our behalf, and that this is a kind and benevolent universe instead of dropping into some sort of fear and enemy mentality. And when something like that comes up, it can be extremely challenging. And so I just wanted to share that, not only something that has happened before in my past, but things that I'm experiencing now, of how can I still continue to grow and be brave, because there's no end. There's no end to this practice of overcoming fear, and also more and more ways that we can really grow ourselves to be brave, because there's always another level. There's always more mastery, more of ourselves to discover. And there's always more ways that we can be courageous. So this whole practice of fearlessness, or facing our fears, I'm also calling more love. Where and when can we extend more love, especially to ourselves, but to other beings that are struggling when they're clearly having a difficult time? We can love the essence of who they are, not necessarily the behavior or the choices they're making. And I know that can be confusing sometimes, that like, how can we extend love to someone who's creating harm or who is acting out in ways that are not favorable for us? Well, we can just send more love to their being, not their behavior, and to dismantle the difference between somebody's behavior and the being that they are. So ask me anything. I'm going to share more fun facts and did you knows, and I appreciate you dropping in, and I encourage you to do something similar, whatever way that you're inspired to do this challenge. You don't have to do it on video and online. It is uncomfortable sometimes, I will confirm that, but you can do it in any way that feels good for you. But, share more of who you are. I'd love to hear that too. And I have different topics I'm going to cover each time I do a video for the next 30 days. It might take me a little longer if I have some weekends where it's not conducive for me to get online or something like that. But I'm still going to honor this commitment in this challenge. And I'm really, really excited to have this opportunity to share more of who I am. All right. See you next time. Thank you for listening.